had amputation in May 2018. Went in for knee replacement surgery, got an infection. After a few weeks, it came down to your life or your leg. So we amputated the leg above the knee, and yeah. It's a funny thing because it's changed it a lot, but it hasn't changed it much. There's a lot of little things that have changed, obviously, with mobility. Having a prosthetic sometimes gets uncomfortable, so then there's, I've got my prosthetic, I've got crutches, wheelchair, and then depending on what I'm doing, how I'm feeling, what mood I'm in, depends on what I'm doing. At least it's changed the way I exercise. But I had end-stage arthritis before I had my knee replacement, so I was doing tailored exercises anyway, and it's the same but different as well with that. People can be different. They can not know how to talk to you. Some people doesn't bother them, doesn't faze them. Some people don't know what to say to you sometimes. Yeah, there's a range of different things that are different. I guess when I first went back to work, I physically couldn't do some of the things I used to be able to do, because I do maintenance in student accommodation buildings, so they're similar to hotels or high-rise apartment buildings. So being able to kneel down and carry things and get into certain positions to fix stuff was different. So I've had to outsource some stuff I would do, which was tough for me because I was very much a hands-on person, and I never thought anybody else was doing it right, so I always had to just do it myself, kind of thing. But also mentally trying to care that somebody had a blown light globe after what I'd just been through, and they made, they got a blown light and it seemed like the end of the world, and I just nearly died and lost my leg, and I've got all this stuff I'm overcoming, and then dealing with NDIS and all that sort of stuff. Mentally it was hard to kind of care too much, like, yeah, you got a blown globe, we'll get to it, it'll get fixed. And that was probably tougher to overcome than physical things, because I just had to keep reminding myself that, that people didn't know what I was going through. And just because I had all these problems, it didn't make somebody's, light globe, so to speak, for example, any less important than anything else that was going on in my job. And it was just, it was my job and it was what I had to do. So it was just a constant reminder that my problems shouldn't reflect on my job and what I was doing. My most recent trip was to a amputee golf day in Melbourne, and booking at the recommended hotel by the people that were putting on the event. They put me in an upstairs apartment. So luckily I'm fairly active and fairly good on my prosthetic, so I could get up the stairs. Carrying my bag was harder, because just carrying stuff as an amputee now I found to be a lot tougher, whether it's balance or the extra weight through the prosthetic or a combination of both. It just seems to throw me out. But that was, I don't know, ironic and funny yet thoughtless at the same time. But I think the biggest thing that I've found when I've travelled has been bathrooms. There's always that lip at the bottom of the shower to try and get over. Even having a wet leg to get in the shower, you've still got to take it off to wash your stump while you're in there. So there's generally no rails or nothing to lean on. So you're sort of leaning on the wall, you're trying to balance and that kind of thing. So as far as accommodation goes, I think bathrooms are the biggest issue, and even asking for disability rooms, they are very, very minimal and generally not available. Haven't been when I've asked for them because they're otherwise booked. So you just got to get creative with what you do, and put plenty of towels down to make sure the floor's not slippery when you get out and that sort of thing. Always. Every day you come across something where you probably wouldn't have bothered me previously, or an able-bodied person wouldn't even think about it. But it's just things, just walking around the block, the condition of the footpaths. You always know the footpath condition's crappy wherever you go, but once you have that disability and any little change in concrete height or slope of a footpath or driveway, it just stands out so much more. Disabled parking, that's a big beef I have. Actually, it's as handy as it is to park close to the entrance. If the park's not wider and you can't open your door more to get out and have the space to move, it's pretty pointless as it is. If you have to get out your car and then walk through the car park to get to a ramp to get up on the footpath because of railings right in front of the car and stuff like that, I think things like that aren't very well thought of. My biggest thing for new amputees is acceptance. If you don't accept that this has happened and this is who you are and how your life will be moving forward, I don't think you can properly tackle the rehab and move forward happily. For me, it's always been 80% mental, 20% physical, maybe 70-30, but the mental part is really big, and I think you need to accept what's happened, own that this is how it is, stick with the rehab and work hard at your rehab, and the recovery and the use of the prosthetic will happen. It does get better, because I remember being in that situation myself and just thinking that this is how it's going to be forever. But the healing takes time, physically and mentally. Rehab takes time. Could be 6 months, could be 12 months, could be 2 years, depending on any other underlying issues you have or any physical restrictions you've got. But eventually, it does turn around. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many things that bug me on a day-to-day basis. Like, social distance has been like a blessing because it's giving me so much room to move and to turn, and especially as an amputee, you can't just suddenly stop on the spot when people stop in front of you. You can't just change direction when you're walking with people who are just all over the place, and things like that. I think, in general day-to-day life, you tend to, as an able-bodied, you take a lot for granted. Yeah, it's probably way too many things for me to be able to just put out there right now, I think. If I had time to make a list, I could probably put out a big list, but just off the top of my head, that's probably about it. There's the cliches of don't take things for granted. Life goes on, all those kind of things. But I think mostly it's like you don't know what other people are going through. If somebody doesn't smile at you when they serve at you in the shop, you need to kind of just not take it personally and just sort of accept that there could be a bigger issue going on for them in their life. and their whole life doesn't revolve around, you know, smiling at you at the counter or whatever. And yeah, just not knowing what other people are going through and how that reflects on their personalities. I think just probably more assume that there's more to it than what you think in a situation like that.